Thank you, David. Extend a special welcome to our past Jewish Federation board chairs. In addition, I want to thank nominating committee members for their service and send my appreciation to the members of the governance committee for their hard work. To begin, I must thank those who are completing their board service this year. Elise Eichner, Linda Joshowitz, Jeff Letwin, and Bob Mallett. You have all contributed a great deal over the course of your term, and you will truly be missed. I know that you will continue to stay involved and engage with the Federation, and I know that the Federation will continue to depend on your advice and your expertise and your guidance. In recognition of your service, the Federation presents each of you with the perfect gift for someone who has served our Jewish Federation, a beautiful tzedakah box. We will send the boxes to you in the near future. A sincere thanks again to each of you. Each of the following individuals is placed in nomination for his or her first 2-year term as a member of the Board of Directors. Jeremy Feinstein, Tanya Cole-Strasbaugh, Larry Lebowitz, and Judy Cannell. In addition, each individual whose name follows is renominated to serve an additional 2-year term as a member of the Board of Directors. Mark Brown, Adam Falcone, Steve Halpern, Ellen Terry Kaplan Goldstein, Simone Karp, David Knoll, Susan Berman Kress, Jan Levinson, Philip Milch, Debbie Resnick, Jane Rollman, Todd Rosenfeld, and Gil Schneider. Polling will now appear on the screen. Those in favor of the slate of board members as presented, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay or abstain. The ayes have it, and the slate of board members is elected. Congratulations to all of you on your election to the board of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh. The nominating committee has also nominated a slate of officers. I place each of the following in nomination for election to a 1-year term as an officer of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh. David Suffren, Chair of the Board. Ellen Terry Kaplan Goldstein, Vice Chair. Jan Levinson, Vice Chair. Jimmy Wagner, Vice Chair. Gil Schneider, Treasurer. Marcy Solomon, Assistant Treasurer. Marcia Marcus, Secretary. And Mark Brown, Assistant Secretary. I now ask that only the members of the Board of Directors vote on the slate of officers. Polling will now appear on the screen. Those in favor of the election of the list of officers as presented, please vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay or abstain. The ayes have it, and the slate of officers is elected. Mazel tov to all of our new officers. Dave Suffren, as always, we look forward to your continued leadership of our Federation. This concludes the nominating committee's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrill, and congratulations to the newly elected board members. Shifting our focus to a more somber tone, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the many people in our community who died from COVID-19 or from cascading related problems. Countless others have lost jobs or experienced food insecurity, financial trouble, mental illness, isolation, and other trauma. People in Israel suffered terrorist attacks and violence, and this crisis triggered a wave of anti-Semitic violence and hate in the United States. For the families of people we lost, I offer our condolences. For those in pain, I offer a refuah shlema, a prayer for healing. The Jewish Federation led the effort to help all those who suffered, and I promise we will continue to do so. In fact, that's the focus of what I want to talk to you about this evening, how your incredible support for the Jewish Federation relieved that suffering and truly saved lives this past year. Let me start with the most important fact. The reason the Federation was able to act quickly to help, the reason that the Federation can lead Jewish Pittsburgh through every crisis, is that the Jewish Federation was here as a strong, vibrant, strategic organization before the crisis began. The Federation quickly developed one of the largest collaborations in Jewish Pittsburgh in decades. This was only possible thanks to our donors and volunteers who enabled the Federation to build relationships with Jewish agencies and synagogues over the course of decades. I want to thank donors to our community campaign and to our Jewish Community Foundation, corporate sponsors, foundations, elected leaders who maintained our government support, and everyone who volunteered their time. A special thanks to the Jewish Healthcare Foundation for their continued grant for health and human services. It has been an honor to lead an amazing group of volunteers and work alongside staff members dedicated to their job, all of whom make the success and growth of Pittsburgh Jewish community their priority. Thanks to you, we will emerge from this crisis with strength and resilience. I wish I had time to talk about everything the Jewish Federation did to help here and around the world. Let me focus on just a few highlights. The Federation set a record for fundraising this year and broke the $50 million mark for the first time. Including all sources, we raised $52,555,000. Let's take a moment to think about that. The community campaign raised $13.675 million. This means giving through the community campaign multiplied your impact by raising more than 3.5 times more money. How? By leveraging corporate, foundation, government, and supplemental dollars. That's what we mean when we say, when we give together, we help more people. As I mentioned, the Jewish Federation built strong relationships over years with our beneficiary agencies. This year, we used those relationships to stimulate some of the most intense cooperation ever, which is saying something considering our high level of cooperation in this Jewish community every year. Federation's planning team worked closely with the agencies to determine areas of greatest need. Federation's fundraising team worked hand in hand with the agencies to identify people and foundations to solicit for both community campaign and supplemental COVID relief contributions. Working together, Jewish Federation distributed over $9 million for COVID relief with 3 primary areas of focus: seniors, vulnerable populations, and youth, young adults, and families. That COVID relief is over and above the millions of distributions from last year's community campaign and grants from our Jewish Community Foundation. The examples of positive impact are too numerous to mention, but here are just a few. Personal protective equipment for people working with seniors in long-term care, which led the Jewish Association on Aging to better pandemic outcomes than 94% of U.S. nursing facilities. Food for Jewish Family and Community Services Squirrel Hill Food Pantry and additional staff because JF and CS could no longer use volunteers safely, leading to a record 15,000 pounds of food distributed monthly. Remote learning support for our 3 Jewish day schools and also for public school students at a day program at the Jewish Community Center called All Day at the J. Laptops, phones, and other ways for adults with mental illness to connect with families and caregivers at Jewish residential services. Technology for synagogues all around Greater Pittsburgh. Campus connections such as Shabbat to-go meals for isolated college students at Hillel Jewish University Center, and contributions towards resettling 2,000 Ethiopian immigrants in Israel in Operation Sur Yisrael, air filtration systems, additional space for social distancing, school nurses, COVID testing for all summer campers at Emma Kaufman Camp. The list goes on and on. At the same time, Jewish Federation continued to help people who needed support before the pandemic. Partnership Together held virtual cooking events that included our sister cities of Pittsburgh, Warsaw, and Carmiel and Misgov. The Federation's Young Adult Division moved its social event series online. The Jewish Community Foundation secured 65 endowments so far this year in partnership with the Grinspoon Life and Legacy Program, totaling over $29 million towards Pittsburgh's Jewish future. None of this work would have been possible without the Federation's leadership. In this crisis, the Jewish Federation did what we do best, bringing people together to solve complex problems. More simply, when we give together, we help more people. Altogether, the Jewish Federation distributed over $44.6 million to support our Jewish community this year. And that number doesn't include the millions of dollars we helped the community access: health plan savings, government grant dollars, security consulting, help with federal PPP loans, and more. I am so proud of the work we accomplished this year. I want to take a moment to thank the Jewish Federation staff for their hard work this year, done almost entirely on a remote basis. Now I would like to introduce this year's recipient of the Emmanuel Spector Award, Meyer Skip Grinberg. This award is the highest honor presented by the Jewish Federation and recognizes exemplary lifetime service to the community, service that Skip has undertaken for more than 4 decades. Skip has served as president of the Pittsburgh Three Rivers Marathon, the Jewish Assistance Fund, and Community Day School. He has chaired the Community Relations Council and Partnership Together programs of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh. He also served as chair of the Maccabi Youth Games and Repair the World. Currently, he is a board member of the Yeshiva Schools of Pittsburgh, the Jewish Cemetery and Burial Association of Greater Pittsburgh, the Jewish National Fund of Pittsburgh, the Jewish Assistance Fund, the Melanoma Action Coalition, the Northern Israel Center for Arts and Technology, and the Bear Fine Foundation. Among the awards Skip has received are the Distinguished Worldwide Humanitarian Award in 2019, the Sonia and Aaron Levinson Award, and the Gerald S. Ostro Volunteer of the Year Award, both from the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh, the Albert Nelson Marquis Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019, the Israel Service Award from the Zionist Organization of America in 2018, the Guardian of Israel Award and the Jewish National Fund in 2016, and an Outstanding Citizen of Pittsburgh Award from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette in 1989. Thank you, Skip, for all that you've done for the Jewish community, and congratulations on this well-deserved achievement. Before we hear from Skip, I'd like to turn it over to Merrill Lanesman, who would like to say a few things.
Skip, you're the epitome of a wise, kind, and dedicated soul. No matter what is asked of you, you always respond affirmatively and jump into the task with 100% of your energy. No task is too large, too small, or too daunting. The breadth of your experience throughout the community is extensive, as is evidenced by the bio that David just recited and the previous awards that you have received. The recitation of your many achievements only begins to describe who you really are. As a former marathoner, turned runner, turned walker, turned schlepper, you have dedicated yourself to help make Pittsburgh a healthier place. The children in our community are better educated because of your efforts. Your Solomonic wisdom has solved many an organizational dispute. You're a wonderful friend with a deep sense of loyalty. You're a dedicated father and grandfather, always flying around the country somewhere to attend birthday parties and other milestone events. You're a wonderful husband to Mary and dog dad to Mega and Mocha. David and I are so proud to call you our friend and hope that you will accept this gift from the Federation with our utmost respect and love. Mazel tov.
Thank you to David and Merrill for that wonderful introduction. I want to thank the Federation for the Emmanuel Spector Award. I'm honored to be included with such an outstanding array of community leaders, both past and present. I am fortunate to have had role models in my family who have always stressed the importance of community service. In the early 20th century, one of my grandfathers was a founder of the Homestead Synagogue, and the other was a founder of the B'nai Israel Synagogue in the East End. My parents were both active in a variety of charitable activities. My initial involvement with community service started with my sons, David, Lee, and Benji. They played Little League, and I became a coach. They attended Community Day School, and I became active there, eventually becoming president. Thanks to Lenny Silberman, they started with the Maccabi Youth Games, and I ended up chairing the Pittsburgh delegation in the 1989 games, which were held in Pittsburgh. Once you get started in community activities, the opportunities to become involved, especially in Pittsburgh, are endless. Volunteering is a two-way street. You share your time, money, and skills to help others less fortunate or causes and organizations that are important to you. But we don't often think about how it helps the volunteer personally. Our tradition teaches that the donor benefits from tzedakah as much or more than the recipient. Volunteering is personally rewarding and gives you a sense of pride and happiness in helping others or furthering a cause. You'll be introduced to some fascinating people you normally never would have met. As an example, I became involved in Partnership Together, thanks to Sandy and Louis Kushner and Merrill and David Ainsman. I traveled to Israel multiple times with our community leaders. We made lifelong friends and created wonderful ties between Pittsburgh and Carmiel Misgov. We were able to develop creative programs and projects like the P2K bike trail. I was a jogger for several decades, a long-time great race participant. When the marathon was reconstituted in Pittsburgh, I was asked to be on the board. 4 years later, I was the president, which exposed me to so many community and political leaders and public servants that I would normally never have met. The marathon is a very complicated event, but the thrill of watching 30,000 runners travel the streets of Pittsburgh makes you realize you are often capable of accomplishing much more than you thought possible. Never underestimate your own abilities. I have been a volunteer in the Pittsburgh community for over 40 years. Friends often ask, don't you get tired of this? Don't you want to do something else? Why do you continue to be as active as you are? I've often thought about it, especially when asked to fulfill another role. My answer is very simple. It's very self-satisfying and it is fun. When I reflect over the years, I think of all the positive changes in our community and how much we have accomplished. I am thrilled to think I was part of the teams and organizations that affected some of these changes. I'd like to highlight a few that I have found very fulfilling and self-satisfying to show the variety of activities in which you could volunteer. Reorganizing and improving the Jewish Assistance Fund. Developing the Youth Maccabi Games program both locally and nationally. Restructuring the Community Relations Council, expanding its role, which provided enormous benefits after the Tree of Life tragedy. Helping the Pittsburgh Marathon grow into an internationally recognized event. Expansion of the Partnership Together program. Organizing and running the Jewish Education Institute. Working with Mark Frank and Bill Strickland, who have done an amazing job developing ACAT, the Akko Center for Arts and Technology, advancing a shared society in Israel. What may be the most satisfying was working 25 years ago with the Federation, Chuck Perlow, Jan Levinson, and Amy Weiss to completely remodel and reconstruct the St. Philomena's Church into the present Community Day School. I live 2 blocks from the school, and every time I drive past, I break out in a little smile. And now I have the pleasure and honor of working with the Yeshiva Schools of Pittsburgh and the Jewish Cemetery and Burial Society as they grow and expand. I want to thank my wife, Mary, who has been supportive of me through all these endeavors, my mother and dad for being amazing role models, my sons, David, Lee, and Benji, who are the reason I got started in community service. Thanks to all our volunteers and the outstanding professional staffs of the Federation and our other Jewish agencies. Together, we have built a wonderful Jewish community. Alone, we could do little. Together, we can do much. To those who haven't volunteered, try it. It's fun. I'd like to end with a quote from Dr. Seuss. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Thank you.
I'm Jeff Finkelstein, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh. Congratulations again to my friend Skip Grinberg. Let me start my part of the program by thanking you, both for your unwavering support this year and for bearing with us through what I hope to be our last all-virtual annual meeting. Special thanks to our board chair, Dave Suffren, for your unbelievably hard work this year as well. I'd like to especially thank our amazing board members who went above and beyond, working remotely to help and guide us. Special thanks as well to our longtime partner, the Jewish Healthcare Foundation, which this year both supported Health and Human Services with its $900,000 block grant and initiated our $9.1 million COVID relief effort with the very first grant of $2.5 million to the Jewish Community Center to help with the JCC's immense community work fighting the pandemic. I usually take time at the annual meeting to talk about the past year of work the Federation did. It's amazing work, truly inspiring, and I strongly encourage you to see some heartwarming stories of the impact you made through the Jewish Federation at our website, jewishpgh.org. Your support for the Jewish Federation helps every year, but it's rare to save lives so directly as you did this past year. I want to talk exclusively about the future. Our program's theme is Windows, and this past year, the Federation's leadership completed and approved a new strategic plan that opens a precious window of opportunity for Jewish Pittsburgh. Thank you to all our volunteers, our chair, Jane Rollman, and our great committee members, Merrill Lanesman, Mark Brown, Neil DeBias, Steve Halpern, Judy Canal, Simone Karp, David Knoll, Yuval Kosovsky, Marcy Solomon, Dave Suffren, and Dave Weisberg for leading this effort. Most important in this strategy is our new vision and mission. The Jewish Federation is over 100 years old, so we need to continue to adapt to the new realities of the 21st century. The new vision for the Jewish Federation is a flourishing Jewish community where everyone feels included, supported, and inspired. That statement reflects what we hope to eventually achieve. Notice that the language infers that the only way to achieve a flourishing Jewish community is when everyone, every individual feels included, supported, and inspired. We have our work cut out for us. How do we try to achieve this vision? Through our mission. What Federation does: cultivate resources, connect people, and collaborate across the community to live and fulfill Jewish values. You heard Dave Suffren speak earlier about the unprecedented level of collaboration during the pandemic. Over the coming years, we promise to build on that spirit of collaboration. We will continue to cultivate resources, and we recognize that these resources now come from a wide variety of sources. Certainly from incredibly generous donors to our Jewish Community Foundation and Community Campaign, but also from corporate sponsors, government grants, foundations, supplemental giving, and even sources we haven't yet imagined. All of this work happens through connections, and we strive to make our Jewish Federation the central connector for our Jewish community. Over decades, we have built strong connections with Jewish agencies, synagogues, and other faith and minority communities. Some of the most important impact you make through the Jewish Federation flows from these connections: training for Jewish professionals, community security, research that helps our agencies work better and identify emerging needs. There's a long list of ways the Jewish Federation can and does help behind the scenes. Over the coming years, you will see some changes in the Jewish Federation. Dozens of people across Pittsburgh inspire these changes through their contributions to our strategic planning process, including people in our Jewish agencies, our staff, donors, thought leaders, and a cross-section of community members. All of these changes work toward 4 goals. Our first goal is to establish Federation as the leading convener of partners and driver of strategies that enable every member of our diverse Jewish community to feel included, engaged, safe, and supported. This goal goes directly to the core, the heart of our vision. By elevating Jewish Federation's planning function to meet current and future needs, focusing even more than we have in the past on strengthening organizations and investing further in leadership development, we can reach as many people as possible who are in need and more people seeking connection to Jewish life. Our second goal is to position the Jewish Federation as one of Greater Pittsburgh's foremost centers and resources for impactful philanthropy. Over the next few years, you will see more opportunities to realize your own or your family's vision for making positive change in the world. Through giving, through leaving a legacy, through our Jewish Community Foundation, through volunteering, through all the ways you give your time and resources, we have the opportunity to work together to transform Jewish Pittsburgh, our entire Pittsburgh community, and Jewish communities around the world. Going hand in hand with this transformation is our third goal, to address community-wide challenges to realize a more equitable and livable Pittsburgh. Over time, we've been doing more to engage in civic issues of deep importance to the Jewish community by forming or joining coalitions to address them. Now, we're making this great work an organizational priority. Especially our younger generations expect that their Judaism will be reflected in making the world a better place. Finally, we have a goal to create the infrastructure needed so Federation can best serve an ever-evolving Pittsburgh Jewish community today and into the future. We heard from you, our supporters, from other Jewish organizations, and from community stakeholders that we need to make some investments in the Federation itself. These investments will modernize the way we do business and make the Jewish Federation a more data-driven, metrics-driven, results-driven organization. Some things definitely won't change. We will continue to lead the fight against anti-Semitism. We will remain steadfast supporters of Israel. We will continue to support Jewish agencies to provide Jewish community security and to represent our Jewish community in community-wide conversations. Some things will change, and although we have 4 clear goals, we have not yet defined all those changes in detail yet. That's why I invite you to continue to give us your input, your help, and your concerns as you talk to our staff over the coming years. Above all, the Jewish Federation represents you, and we couldn't do our work without you. It's my pleasure to introduce Rabbi Moshe Meir Vogel to accept the Doris and Leonard H. Rudolph Jewish Communal Professional Award. This award recognizes the exceptional personal and professional commitment of a Jewish communal professional selected for his or her contribution to improving the quality of services offered in the community and to the enhancement of Jewish life. In 1984, Rabbi Vogel spent the high holidays leading services in the federal prison complex in Allenwood, Pennsylvania. This experience inspired a career helping Jewish men and women who are incarcerated and supporting the humanitarian needs of the inmates' families. In 1991, he founded the Aleph Institute Northeast Region. He inspires us all with his tireless work advocating for Jewish people who are incarcerated and his life-saving work providing food and other human services to people in need. Rabbi Vogel has received state and national recognition for his long-standing advocacy for alternative sentencing, which has included collaboration with other faith leaders and minority communities. Even during the pandemic, Rabbi Vogel continued to visit incarcerated people who were cut off from family and visitors. He continued to enable these Jewish community members to celebrate holidays and fought to house incarcerated people in the community instead of in prisons, which posed high risk from COVID-19. Rabbi Vogel studied at the Lubavitch Yeshiva Torres Emes in Jerusalem and received his ordination from the Central Lubavitch Academy, Tomchei Tamimim in New York. He has testified before the Pennsylvania State Judiciary Committee as a prison expert. Worked with Pennsylvania Senator Arlen Spector's office in the writing of federal law affecting Jewish inmates, and continues to work with federal, state, and local officials on a daily basis on many issues. I am honored to present Rabbi Vogel with this year's Doris and Leonard H. Rudolph Jewish Communal Professional Award.
Baruch Atah Hashem Shehecheyonu v'kimonu v'higiyonu lizman hazeh. Thank you, God, for bringing us to this day and this moment. Baruch Hashem. Chef, thank you so much for this award. Your kindness and generosity of spirit is inspiring and invigorating. May you continue in your energetic and worthy community activism for many, many more years and happy and healthy years. The Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh deserves our recognition and gratitude for its role in helping the community endure during this terrible COVID pandemic. They helped community agencies large and small, and their assistance to Aleph was essential and deeply appreciated. We hope and pray that the worst of the pandemic is behind us and brighter times are just ahead. May the Federation be blessed to be able to help with only happy times from now on, education, community building, and exponential Jewish growth. This award is being given to an individual, but I receive it on behalf of those who are the heart and soul, the hands and feet of the Aleph Institute. Above all, I stand here on behalf of the Lubavitcher Rebbe of sainted and blessed memory, who inspired the creation of the Aleph Institute, whose blessing endowed Aleph with its phenomenal success, and whose love for his people and humanity in general powers Aleph to this day, 30 years after its founding. Also, this award is being received on behalf of the real players in the story, the men and women, individuals in our community who have wronged society, wronged their family, wronged themselves, and yet possess the strength to recognize the wrong they have done, the pain they have caused, and the help they need to turn their lives around and become productive members of society. In their willingness to accept Aleph's help and gracefully engage in the transformation that is so necessary and so possible, that makes Aleph a success. May God Almighty bless them that they all become what we know they can. I accept this award on behalf of the families of the incarcerated. These children, parents, grandparents have done nothing wrong and are victims of the bad choices made by loved ones. They are left to pick up the pieces, sometimes very heavy pieces, but their capacity to forgive and continue to love, to accept Aleph's assistance, to carry on, to mend relationships, build bridges, and empower them to help their loved ones turn their lives around. These family members are literally heroes of the highest caliber. Without them, Aleph would be simply a lofty ideal, and society would be far worse off. This award is being received on behalf of the righteous army of community volunteers, community leaders, rabbis, and many other good-hearted people in our exceptional Pittsburgh Jewish community and the Squirrel neighborhood in particular. Their selfless, tireless devotion to these lost members of our nation, locked up behind bars, crushed by their own choices, is humbling. As Jeff mentioned, some of our programs extend to the non-Jewish community too, helping so many who are struggling with the ills of life, be it addictions or other ills. These are people who are able to rebuild their lives into a beautiful flower the way it was supposed to be, thanks to our legions of friends in the community. Their repeated visits, services, classes, and the general friendship and respect that they show these poor people is why Aleph succeeds. This award is in large part due to Aleph's wonderful board, who spends so much time coaching, supporting, and being there in every way through this journey. Current and past board members and staff members, you have kept Aleph young, vibrant, and squeaky clean. You have kept the pedal to the metal, always optimistic, always pushing for more activity, new growth, new energy. Mr. Fred Landay, Dr. Barry Lambersky, and Mrs. Phyllis Timmons, may they rest in peace. Together, through their dedication to Aleph, they have affected the lives of thousands or maybe tens of thousands. We accept this award on their behalf too. There is a special place in heaven where God looks after those who looked after his most needy children and forgotten children. I know that Mr. Landay, Dr. Lambersky, and Ms. Timmons are resting there in peace and enjoying the nachas of seeing this award be given to Aleph. I accept this award on behalf of a family whose very name has become synonymous with tzedakah, loving, caring for others. The Rudolph family, carrying on in tradition of the legendary patriarch and matriarch Mr. Leonard Rudolph and Miss Doris Rudolph. They deserve this award as much as any of us at Aleph Success. Leonard was a pillar in the Jewish community, so generous with his time, resources and spirit to support the Jewish community. And his family has become the same, a pillar of kindness in a world of confusion. My wife Nachami is the unbreakable, invisible force behind Aleph's work. Most of you have never met her because she flees from the spotlight. But she is my full partner in crime, if you'll pardon my expression, in helping those in the community who have nowhere else to turn. Hers is not an easy burden, and she carries it with poise and selflessness, which were the hallmarks of righteous Jewish women down through the ages. For everything she has done behind the scenes, including creating hundreds and hundreds of meals for the community during the pandemic, I accept this award humbly on her behalf. We stand on the threshold of the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, and on this day we are called to give a report and accounting of the year gone by. God knows us better than we know ourselves, as we stand this Yom Kippur shoulder to shoulder, and yet every person in their own private space with God. It is the most honest moment of the year. We know deep within ourselves where we can improve, but at the same moment, accountability is at a time when we are guaranteed the blessings of a beautiful new year, brimming with new horizons, new achievements, and the work of helping one more person, and then one more person, until the spirit of evil is wiped off the face of the earth, with the coming of the righteous Mashiach. Amen. At this time, I would like to take the opportunity to wish everyone a Shana Tova, a good, sweet, and happy new year, filled with an abundance of good, and that begins with helping others.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh's annual meeting. Please go to jewishpgh.org to learn more, and please consider joining us in Israel June 13th through the 21st for the Jewish Federation's mega mission. Registration is open now. I want to extend my deepest thanks again to our donors and volunteers, to the amazing professionals in our Jewish agencies and synagogues, and to you, our greatest supporters. I look forward to seeing what we achieve together.